Most people believe their kidneys will let them know when something is wrong. Maybe a sharp pain, maybe a warning sign, maybe something obvious. But what if I told you that's not how it works? The scary truth is that you can lose up to 90 fun trum of your kidney function and feel absolutely nothing. No pain, no alarm bells, no clear signal that anything is going wrong. That's what makes kidney disease so dangerous. It doesn't usually show up with a dramatic symptom. It works quietly, slowly, year after year. And while you go about your daily life thinking everything is fine, tiny filters inside your kidneys may already be under constant stress. So why are the kidneys so silent? Why can damage build for years before most people ever notice? And here's an even more surprising question. What actually happens inside your kidneys when you stop eating for a while? Can fasting really give these hardworking organs a chance to recover? Could your body have built-in repair systems that most people never activate? And if that's true, how long does it take before those repair processes start turning on? The answers may completely change the way you think about your kidneys, your health, and even your next meal. One of the biggest misconceptions about kidney disease is believing you'll feel it when it starts. Most people assume that if an organ is struggling, it will hurt. But kidneys don't work that way. Unlike many other parts of the body, the kidneys don't have an early warning system that sends pain signals when damage begins. They can keep working quietly even while losing more and more function. That's why kidney disease is often discovered much later than people expect. Many individuals feel perfectly normal. They still go to work. They still exercise. They still use the bathroom regularly. Everything seems fine on the surface. But inside, the damage may have been building for years. The kidneys are incredibly resilient. They keep compensating and adapting for as long as possible. In a strange way, their strength becomes their weakness. Because they keep doing their job, they hide the problem. They haven't By the time symptoms finally appear, a significant amount of kidney function may already be gone. That's why understanding kidney health isn't just important, it's essential. Because when it comes to your kidneys, feeling fine doesn't always mean everything is fine. Inside each of your kidneys are about 1 million tiny filters called nephrons. They're microscopic, but they do one of the most important jobs in your entire body. Every single day, they filter your blood, remove waste, balance fluids, and help keep everything running smoothly. The amazing thing is that you're born with far more filtering capacity than you actually need. Doctors sometimes call this your renal reserve. Think of it like a savings account. Your kidneys have extra capacity built in to help you handle life's challenges. But here's the problem. Every unhealthy habit takes a small withdrawal from that account. Too much sugar, constant overeating, chronic stress, poor sleep, ongoing inflammation. It all adds up over time. One bad day won't destroy your kidneys. The real issue is repetition. Small stresses repeated thousands of times can slowly wear down those precious nephrons year after year. And because the process happens so gradually, most people never realize they're spending their kidney reserve until much of it is already gone. The good news is that your body is smarter than most people think. When given the right conditions, it can shift from constant strain into repair mode. And that possibility is what makes the rest of this story so fascinating. Most people never think about how hard their kidneys work. The truth is, many of us keep them busy from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed. Think about a typical day. Breakfast, a snack, lunch, another snack, dinner, maybe something sweet before bed. Every time food comes in, your kidneys have another job to do. They never really get a break. Protein and sugar are two of the biggest triggers. Both require extra processing, and that means your kidneys have to filter more blood and work harder behind the scenes. Over time, this can lead to something called hyperfiltration. That simply means your kidney filters are working in overdrive. At first, it may seem like a good thing. More work gets done. Everything still looks normal. But just like an engine running at full speed all day, every day, the wear and tear starts adding up. The scary part is that this damage often begins long before any blood test shows a problem. You can feel healthy. Your lab results may still look okay. Yet tiny changes may already be happening inside those delicate filters. That's why kidney problems rarely appear overnight. They usually develop quietly, one day at a time, hidden behind habits that seem completely normal. When people hear the word insulin, they usually think about blood sugar. But insulin affects a lot more than that. When we eat frequently, especially foods high in sugar and refined carbohydrates, insulin stays elevated for long periods of time. And that's where the trouble can begin. One thing insulin does is tell the body to hold on to sodium. When sodium stays in the body, more water stays too. That extra fluid increases pressure throughout the system, including inside the kidneys. Now imagine that pressure building day after day, year after year. The tiny filtering units inside your kidneys were never designed to handle that kind of stress forever. High insulin can also affect the blood vessels surrounding those filters. Over time, they become less flexible and more rigid. When blood vessels stiffen, pressure gets trapped where it shouldn't be. The result is more strain on the kidneys and more work for the filters that are already carrying a heavy load. The problem is that none of this creates immediate symptoms. You don't feel the pressure rising, you don't feel the blood vessels changing, but your kidneys do. And that's why insulin can become one of the most overlooked contributors to long-term kidney stress. There's another threat to kidney health that most people have never heard of. They're called AGEs, short for Advanced Glycation End Products. The name sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. When excess sugar sticks to proteins inside the body, it creates these harmful compounds. Over time, AGEs begin to build up. You can think of them like rust forming inside delicate machinery. At first, the damage is small, easy to ignore. But little by little, that buildup starts interfering with how things work. Inside the kidneys, AGEs can attach to the filtration membranes that clean your blood. As more of them accumulate, inflammation increases. The filters become less efficient. The surrounding tissues experience more stress, and the aging process starts to accelerate. What makes this especially concerning is how ordinary the causes are: a sugary breakfast, sweet drinks, constant snacking, years of elevated blood sugar. None of these habits seem dangerous in the moment, but over decades, they can leave a lasting mark on the kidneys. That's why protecting your kidneys isn't only about avoiding disease. It's about reducing the daily stresses that quietly speed up aging from the inside out. Most people think fasting is simply about not eating, but inside your body, something much bigger is happening. For the first time in hours, your system isn't focused on digesting food. It starts shifting its attention somewhere else. Repair. Think about it. Every meal requires work. Your body has to process nutrients, regulate blood sugar, store energy, and filter waste. It's a non-stop cycle. When food stops coming in, that workload begins to ease. One of the first things that happens is insulin starts to fall. Not all at once, but steadily. As insulin drops, pressure inside the kidneys starts to decrease as well. The tiny filters that have been working around the clock finally get a chance to slow down. And that matters more than most people realize. Those microscopic filters, called nephrons, never ask for attention. They just keep doing their job day after day. Fasting gives them something they rarely get in modern life: a break. Not a complete shutdown. They're still working, but they're no longer being pushed as hard. It's like taking your foot off the gas after driving for hours. The engine is still running, but the strain is gone. And for many people, this is the moment the body begins shifting from constant work toward recovery. The first 12 hours of fasting may not feel dramatic. You might just feel a little hungry. Maybe you think nothing important is happening, but your kidneys would tell a different story. As insulin continues to fall, the kidneys begin releasing extra sodium that has been held in the body. And when sodium leaves, water follows. This is one reason many people notice they're using the bathroom more often during the early stages of fasting. At first, it seems like a small change, but inside the kidneys, it's actually a big deal. Less fluid means less pressure. Less pressure means less stress on the filtration system. The tiny filters don't have to work as hard to manage excess water and sodium anymore. For the first time in a long while, some of that burden starts to lift. You won't see it happening. You probably won't feel it happening. But this is often the first protective step. The body is creating a healthier environment for the kidneys by reducing some of the mechanical strain they've been carrying every single day. It's not full repair yet, but it's the beginning of something important. The groundwork is being laid for deeper changes that may come later. Most people have heard of fatty liver. Very few have heard of fatty kidney. But yes, fat can build up around the kidneys too. And when it does, problems can start developing quietly. The kidneys depend on a healthy blood supply. They need oxygen and nutrients delivered constantly to keep millions of nephrons working properly. When excess fat begins accumulating around kidney tissues, it can create physical pressure on nearby blood vessels. Think of it like stepping on a garden hose. The water may still flow, but not as freely as before. Over time, that reduced circulation means less oxygen reaches certain areas of the kidney, and cells don't age well when oxygen is limited. This kind of stress can slowly speed up wear and tear inside the organ. The frustrating part is that most people have no idea it's happening. There are usually no warning signs, no pain, no obvious symptoms, just a gradual decline that unfolds quietly over the years. That's why reducing excess visceral fat isn't only about appearance or weight loss. It's about giving your organs more room to function the way they were designed to. And for the kidneys, that extra space can make a bigger difference than many people realize. Around 16 to 18 hours into a fast, something interesting starts happening behind the scenes. By now, your body has used up a large portion of its stored glycogen. That's the quick-access fuel it normally relies on throughout the day. When those fuel reserves begin running low, your body has to adapt. This is where a powerful energy sensor called AMPK comes into play. You don't need to remember the name. What's important is what it does. Think of AMPK as the body's signal that says, we need to become more efficient. Instead of depending on incoming food, the body starts looking inward for fuel, and one of its favorite targets is stored visceral fat. That's the deep fat wrapped around organs, including the fat that can build up around the kidneys. As this process begins, some of that excess fat starts being used for energy. Little by little, the pressure surrounding important organs can start to ease. You won't notice this in the mirror overnight, but internally, it matters. Less fat around the kidneys means less compression, better circulation, and a healthier environment for those hard-working nephrons. This stage isn't about dramatic transformation. It's about creating the conditions that allow deeper healing to happen later. For many people, the 2-4 hour mark is where fasting starts becoming something more than simply skipping meals. This is when the body begins shifting its priorities in a noticeable way. One of the key changes involves a pathway called mTOR. Under normal circumstances, mTOR helps support growth and building processes inside the body. That's useful when food is plentiful. But when fasting continues, mTOR activity begins to quiet down. And surprisingly, that's a good thing. Because when growth signals decrease, repair signals have room to step forward. It's almost like a construction crew finally leaving a busy building so the maintenance team can come in and fix what has been neglected. The body starts focusing less on processing nutrients and more on restoring what has been damaged. This doesn't mean your kidneys suddenly become brand new, but the environment inside your body begins to change. Inflammation may decrease. Cellular stress starts easing. Energy can be redirected toward maintenance rather than constant digestion. This is why many researchers view the 2-4 hour point as a biological turning point. The foundation for repair is now being built. And what happens next may be one of the most fascinating survival mechanisms the human body has ever developed. Once fasting reaches this deeper stage, the body begins activating a process called autophagy. The name sounds complicated, but the idea is actually simple. Autophagy is your body's way of cleaning house. Over the years, cells collect damaged proteins, worn-out parts, and biological debris that no longer serve a useful purpose. Normally, some of that waste sticks around, but during fasting, the body becomes much more selective. Instead of letting damaged material pile up, it starts breaking it down and recycling it. Think of it like cleaning out a garage that's been cluttered for years. old junk gets removed. Useful materials get reused. Space opens up again. Inside the kidneys, this process can be especially valuable. Kidney cells work hard every single day. They use enormous amounts of energy to filter blood and maintain balance throughout the body. Over time, damaged proteins and cellular waste can interfere with that work. Autophagy helps clear some of that clutter. As the cleanup continues, cells can operate more efficiently. Energy production improves. Stress inside the tissue may begin to decrease. What makes autophagy so remarkable is that it's not adding something new to the body. It's helping the body restore itself using tools it already has. And for the kidneys, that cleanup process may be one of the first real steps toward deeper recovery. By this point in a fast, the body is doing more than cleaning up old cellular waste. Now it starts focusing on something even deeper: your mitochondria. These tiny structures are often called the power plants of your cells because they're responsible for producing energy. Every cell depends on them, especially the hardworking cells inside your kidneys. The problem is that mitochondria don't stay perfect forever. Years of stress, inflammation, poor diet, and aging can leave some of them damaged and inefficient. Instead of producing clean energy, they start creating more waste and more oxidative stress. That's where mitophagy comes in. Think of it as quality control. Your body begins identifying faulty mitochondria and breaking them down so they don't continue causing problems. At the same time, healthier and more efficient mitochondria can take their place. This matters because kidney cells use an enormous amount of energy every single day. They never really get time off. When their energy systems improve, everything becomes easier. Cells work more efficiently. Less oxidative stress is produced. Less damage accumulates over time. And, perhaps most importantly, the kidneys regain some of the energy they've been missing. It's like replacing old, worn-out batteries with brand new ones. The entire system starts running better from the inside out. As fasting continues, another important shift begins to happen. Ketone levels start rising. Most people think ketones are simply an alternative fuel source. And that's true, but they do much more than provide energy. In many ways, ketones act like messengers. They send signals throughout the body that can help calm excessive inflammation. And that's a big deal. Chronic inflammation is one of the major reasons tissues slowly wear down over time. It affects blood vessels, organs, and the tiny filtration units inside the kidneys. When ketones increase, that inflammatory burden may begin to ease. The environment surrounding the kidneys becomes less hostile. Less inflammation means less stress on the nephrons. Less stress means a better chance for those delicate filters to keep functioning properly. Many people describe feeling clearer and more focused during this stage of fasting. Part of that may come from ketones providing a steady source of fuel to the brain. But the benefits don't stop there. The kidneys may benefit as well. Instead of constantly dealing with inflammatory signals, they can operate in a calmer, more stable environment. And sometimes, creating the right environment is exactly what the body needs to begin healing itself. Once you move beyond the 4-8 hour mark, fasting enters a very different territory. At this stage, the body is no longer just adapting to the absence of food. It begins activating deeper recovery processes. One of the most fascinating changes involves stem cell signaling. You can think of stem cells as the body's backup repair crew. They're not constantly active, but under the right conditions, they can help replace old or damaged cells. Research suggests that extended fasting may trigger signals that encourage this repair process. For the kidneys, that's incredibly important. Over the years, tiny injuries can build up throughout kidney tissue. Most of the time, we never notice them happening, but during this deeper fasting phase, the body may begin directing more resources toward repairing those damaged areas. Inflammation continues to fall. Cellular communication improves. Recovery pathways become more active. No, this doesn't mean the kidneys suddenly become young again overnight. But it does mean the body is creating one of the strongest healing environments it can naturally produce. This is where fasting stops being simply a break from eating. It becomes an opportunity for renewal. a chance for the kidneys to move beyond surviving and begin rebuilding. And for many people, that's the most remarkable part of the entire process. As fasting continues, ketone levels keep rising, and one ketone in particular starts getting a lot of attention from researchers. It's called beta-hydroxybutyrate. Don't worry about remembering the name. What matters is what it appears to do. This ketone doesn't just provide energy, it may also help calm some of the inflammation happening throughout the body. One of the biggest threats to kidney health isn't always obvious damage. Sometimes it's the low-grade inflammation that sticks around for years. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but over time, it can slowly wear down the delicate structures inside the kidneys. Beta-hydroxybutyrate seems to help quiet some of those inflammatory signals. When inflammation decreases, the kidneys aren't constantly fighting the same internal battle. That matters because chronic inflammation is one of the driving forces behind fibrosis. Fibrosis is essentially scarring, and once scar tissue builds up, kidney function becomes harder to maintain. The less inflammation there is, the slower that process may move. Think of it like protecting a house from years of weather damage. You're not rebuilding the entire structure overnight. You're helping prevent further deterioration, and for the kidneys, that protection can make a meaningful difference over time. Sometimes healing isn't about dramatic change. Sometimes it's about slowing the damage and giving the body a better chance to preserve what it already has. By now, you might be wondering about the question that brought us here in the first place. Exactly when do the kidneys begin benefiting from fasting? The answer is more encouraging than most people expect. The process doesn't start after some extreme challenge or marathon fast. It starts much earlier. Around the 1-2 to 1-6 hour mark, insulin drops and filtration pressure begins to ease. This is often the first sign that the kidneys are getting a break from constant workload. Then comes the 4 to 8 hour window. This is where things become more interesting. Autophagy becomes more active. Damaged proteins can be cleared away. Cellular cleanup and maintenance begin accelerating. At the same time, the body becomes more efficient at using stored energy, reducing some of the metabolic stress that has been weighing on the kidneys. Beyond 48 hours, deeper repair pathways may begin to emerge. Signals linked to regeneration, cellular renewal, and recovery become more active. The body shifts further away from survival mode and further toward restoration. But here's the most important thing to understand. You don't need to fast for multiple days every time to experience benefits. Many of the earliest protective changes happen long before that. The kidneys don't necessarily need extreme fasting. What they often need is consistency. Giving the body regular periods without constant digestion may be enough to create meaningful improvements over time. And that's good news, because it makes the process much more realistic for everyday people. Before we finish, there's one thing we absolutely need to talk about. Breaking a fast the wrong way can undo some of the benefits you worked hard to create. After an extended fast, the body is operating differently. Hormones have shifted. Electrolytes have changed. Digestion has slowed down. If you suddenly overload the system with large meals, sugary foods, or heavy carbohydrates, it can create unnecessary stress. In more serious situations, it can contribute to a condition known as refeeding syndrome, where electrolyte levels shift too quickly. That's why ending a fast deserves just as much attention as starting one. A gentler approach is usually the smarter approach. Many people begin with broth, soft vegetables, and moderate amounts of protein. Then they slowly return to regular meals over time. Hydration also matters. Your kidneys rely on proper fluid balance to continue doing their job effectively. And perhaps the most important lesson of all is this. Fasting should never be treated as punishment. It's not about suffering. It's not about starving yourself. It's a tool. A tool that may give your body time to rest, reset, and focus on repair. Throughout this journey, we've seen how fasting can reduce filtration pressure, activate cellular cleanup, support healthier energy production, calm inflammation, and potentially create conditions that help the kidneys recover. The goal isn't to fast the longest. The goal is to fast wisely. If you found this information helpful and want more science-based health insights explained in a simple way, be sure to subscribe to Hidden Organ Secrets and join us for the next video. Until then, take care of your kidney. They're working for you every minute of every day, even when you don't notice.